Welcome everyone to Super Bowl Apps and Fan Food. My name is Caitlin Hennessy. I'm the program coordinator here at Global Connections. Our goal at Global Connections is to provide engaging co- and extracurricular programming to global campus students anywhere they have an internet connection. And presenting this evening is Chef Jamie Callison. Chef Callison is an executive chef at Washington State University's School of Hospitality Business Management, and he's also the author of the cookbook, The Crimson Spoon. As many of you are already doing, please do use that chat box throughout the evening to submit questions to Ask Chef Jamie, as well as discuss the content. If you have any technical difficulties, please do let myself or Kristen know in the chat box. All right, thank you all so much for coming, and I want to turn it over to Chef Callison.
All right. Thank you, and thank you everybody for taking time to watch this presentation. We're really excited to have you. I have more students than I normally have. I was expecting that we'd come out of a tunnel and have flames and cannons and fireworks, but they didn't set that up for us, so I apologize. That's my dry sense of humor coming out. Isaac Williams is has been our dining room manager for a couple years, and he's going to help us tonight kind of with the staging part. I brought a real team today, right? Megan is our pastry culinary lead, and she's going to be helping out and actually doing some of the teaching. And Chelsea is actually going to be helping do some of the teaching. This is your first time, right? Yeah, it's really exciting. So her, this is her freshman start. So we're really excited to have you. So we're going to get right into it. We're covering a lot today. We're going to be making some sauces and stuff. The key to this is going to look like a lot of work as we're going through this. As I'm going through this, I'm going to tell you kind of how to stage some of this stuff so you don't have to do everything and be frantic the day of the game day. So that day you should be able to relax and watch the game and talk with friends. So we're going to kind of walk through that. We call that mise en place, but we'll keep it simple and we'll just call it advanced preparation and cooking. So we're going to go over here, and I'm going to start with barbecue sauce. I'm a little picky about barbecue sauce. I believe that if you're going to spend $24 for a brisket, you should not buy a 99-cent bottle of barbecue sauce to put on there. This is not talking negative about any of the barbecue sauces out there. I just believe in quality with quality. So with our barbecue sauce, we're actually making a homemade barbecue sauce, which is actually pretty simple. We're going to start, and I'm not saying this brand, but this is a good brand. You want to make sure you buy a good name brand tomato puree. There's some that have a lot of water added to it. So I like something that's nice and thick. So Hunt's or one of the name brands are definitely the better way to go. What we're going to do is we're going to heat that up. We're going to heat that up with a little bit of red wine vinegar, liquid smoke, honey, garlic, and molasses. And of course, here on WSU campus, we love using the WSU honey and kind of adding in that fresh product. And I like putting fresh garlic in my barbecue sauce. And sometimes we'll strain that out at the end depending on the purpose. But I love that flavor of that fresh garlic when the oils come out. So, and then we have a very large list of dry ingredients that we're going to put into the barbecue sauce. I like putting any kind of dry rub or anything into a Ziploc bag and moving it around and actually mixing everything up really well before I add it to any of the items. And it's going to help any clumping of like ginger or anything like that. Ginger is a great part of this barbecue sauce. I know it sounds strange, but it adds a lot of flavor, but we don't want a big piece of it. So this has mustard, chili powder, granulated garlic, chili flakes, kosher salt, ground ginger, ground cumin, black pepper, and brown sugar. So we're going to add this to the barbecue sauce. And then we're going to stir that in. And this barbecue sauce really only needs to simmer for about 15 minutes. Just enough to dissolve the sugar, release the oils from the garlic, and it's going to have plenty of time to kind of rest and develop those flavors. The beauty of this barbecue sauce is the barbecue sauce will actually last a good 3 weeks in your refrigerator covered in an airtight container. So just make sure when you do put it in the refrigerator that it's cold and that you actually cover it after it's cold to make sure you don't put it in there and have bacteria growth. And I wish that you could smell this barbecue sauce right now. It makes a huge difference making this. And again, you can make this tomorrow and pull it out on Sunday and start using that barbecue sauce for your game day feast. Take that. Take it away. There we go. So now we have, I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I'm cooking with induction burners today, and I love induction burners because they have really nice even heat. I don't get any burning on the sides, so it's kind of the, for a chef, that's the next best friend to using gas or propane. So in this marinade here, we actually have a ginger marinade. And it has soy sauce, rice wine vinegar, sesame oil, chili flakes, garlic, fresh ginger, and it's just and pineapple juice, and it's just an amazing marinade. And that's what we're using for our wings today. So for the wings, I actually like to marinade in a Ziploc bag, and the reason I like to use a Ziploc bag is because you can use less marinade. So the recipe that we supplied you, it's great because the marinade, half of the marinade is for marinating your wings, and the other half is actually for making the sauce. So you don't have to make two separate sauces. So what I've done is I've lined these up on a rack, and because of the sugar and everything, putting parchment paper underneath really helps. You get that pan that you cannot clean. That'll really help cleaning that. So we're gonna go ahead. This chicken's been marinating for 24 hours. It has amazing flavor. We're gonna put this in the oven and we're gonna cook it until, as soon as the chicken is, it's gonna take about 15 minutes. As soon as it's really dark brown and starts to caramelize, the chicken wings will be cooked all the way through. So Isaac, you wanna put these in the oven for me? If my voice is disappearing, I've been teaching students since 8 o'clock this morning, so I apologize for that. So now with our sauce, what we want to do is we're going to add in some more rice wine vinegar, some WSU honey, and tonight you'll notice kind of a little bit of theme. We love Cougar gold cheese and the different kinds of Cougar gold cheese here, so we will be using Cougar gold cheese. This marinade, the actual base of this marinade, this is sriracha I'm putting in here now. The base of this marinade, we actually can make, you can actually hold this in your refrigerator for a couple months. If you actually chill it down before you put it away, and you put it in a nice airtight container in the refrigerator, because of the soy sauce and everything, it'll last for a very long time. We actually make huge batches of this and give it to our family. It's kind of our family teriyaki sauce marinade. It works really good. So what we're going to do now is we need to thicken the sauce just a tiny bit. So we're going to add a little bit of cornstarch, and we're going to mix that cornstarch with water, and we're going to make a slurry. And that slurry we're going to add to boiling, the boiling sauce. So we just need to bring this up to a boil. We're going to add a little bit of water to our cornstarch. We have our cornstarch here in the bowl, and we're going to add a little bit of water to that. And what we want to do is we want to make a nice slurry. And then as soon as our liquid comes to a boil, we're going to add the slurry to it. So while that's coming to a boil, what I've done is wanted to show you kind of how to prep ginger. So always wash the ginger first, which I already did. And then the beauty is, if you just take a spoon for peeling the ginger and you pull it back towards you like this, that'll actually get rid of all of this really tough fibrous product down here. You want to remove that, and then we're just going to slice it. And actually, in a food processor, it works really well to chop this really, really fine. But you want to make sure you get rid of all that fiber, or it's not going to be very enjoyable to eat. So our sauce has come to a boil, and we have our cornstarch slurry. We're going to add that into our sauce. And you'll notice that it gets really cloudy right at the very beginning. We do not want to, we want to cook it until it gets clear, and then it'll also get thick. So as you can see, we got it to the boiling point. We want to cook it, and it's starting to clear up a little bit. You can see that it actually, a lot of that cloudiness is gone. If for some reason you put it in and the liquid wasn't hot enough and it doesn't seem to be thickening, bring it to a boil. The cornstarch will thicken the sauce. I'm going to add just a little bit more. And for, like we had in lab this week, we had beef stew. So people who are gluten intolerant or celiac disease, they can actually use cornstarch for the, if that's good with their diet, they can use the cornstarch in replacement instead of using any kind of flour. So we want to boil this for about a minute, and then we're going to turn it down, and then we can use it. I might add just a little bit more. The recipe was measured out, but you always want to, because of, depending on the evaporation that you had, you don't want to just add all the cornstarch in and make it too thick, because if the liquid reduced down too far, then the sauce is going to be way too thick and it has a weird texture. So if you can see it, that looks really good. Then magically, I think we have some wings that are done that we're ready to plate up. Bring them on over. So we're gonna, if you can see the wings after they've been in the oven, how nice and dark they got. So you got really nice caramelization, and that's gonna add a lot of flavor to the wings. Now this is gonna be extremely hot. And if you can see how the sauce is definitely gonna absorb into the chicken a little bit too. And so now we're just gonna put these on a platter and we're gonna garnish them. I'm gonna move over here and we're actually going to cut up a little green onion. And I decided to demo this today because a lot of people don't know how to approach the green onion. So the most used part of the green onion is the green part. And there's a lot of people that actually will approach it from the bottom part of it. So we're gonna cut the green onion, but there's no reason to throw away the white part. I like using the white part of the onion for stir fries. You can actually marinate them in that marinade and roast them in the oven and treat it, and it has amazing flavor. I throw them on a little olive oil, throw them on the grill, and grill them, and they're absolutely amazing. So these have already been washed. I like to trim off the top part because you get a lot of browning. So I want to trim that off. And then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to cut it at a slight angle. And then I'm going to discard the tops. Then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to go at a little bit of an angle and I'm going to go as thin as I possibly can. And you end up with a really nice cut. It's just a little bit of an angle cut there. They did a beautiful job. So we got these wings. The beautiful thing about these wings too is you can have these cooked off with the sauce on, guests show up, and all you have to do is plate them and garnish them. So you can have them setting in that sauce. And actually setting in that sauce for about a half hour, they'll absorb more of that sauce and they'll be absolutely amazing. So we're gonna garnish these with a little bit of green onion. And I wish that all of you could taste these right now. The amount of sriracha that we put in the recipe is just the right amount for even me that I don't really like a lot of spice because I want to be able to taste the product and the food. And it really is that perfect amount of spice where you can feel it, but you actually, there's some people that could use a little bit more. So talk with that with the friends that are coming over. You can make some more spicy. Adding more chili flakes into the marinade will help a lot. And then of course a little bit more sriracha will go a long ways. So I have toasted sesame seeds mixed with some black sesame seeds. I'm gonna garnish these. And then what I did, because I had no other purpose right now for the green onions, again, I love the white parts, which some people just throw away. I love cooking with those. So what we're gonna do is actually take it, we're gonna trim off. So I would normally cut the green onion down to about there. And then I would trim this part off, and again, just tossing it with olive oil, throwing it on the grill, it's absolutely amazing. So I'm gonna trim the end off here, and now the very end here. And then all I do is take it and take my knife, and I'm gonna cut really thin strips, and I'm not really even paying attention. They don't have to be exact, just really thin strips. And just taking the knife, the tip of the knife, definitely cutting away from my hand. I just keep on rolling it, and you can go a couple times around just to make sure you get as many thin strips as you possibly can. And going a little bit higher up is really nice too. Then what you end up with, you put these in ice water, and you end up with that. Just simply by, I know that looks like nothing right now, but that's setting in the water. And then the beautiful thing is you can set that on your dish. And it kind of adds a lot to the dish. I can't see what it looks like from your side, but that just kind of adds an extra little touch. So now we're gonna go into corn dogs. So I did a really high-end event in Seattle one time, and I showed up, and the lady said that she was so relieved because she did some research on the kind of food we do. She's like, I'm so relieved that you're showing up and you're not gonna do corn dogs, something like corn dogs. This is a benefit for a children's organization in Seattle, and the first item on the menu, and she hadn't seen the menu yet, was WSU's sausage corn dog pops. And she just started cracking up laughing, and it was the hit of the party. People absolutely loved them. It was for the Paul Newman Foundation. And so we use those a lot here, and the WSU sausage is absolutely amazing. So, Megan, you ready to take over?
I think so. So like Chef said, the corn dogs that we're going to be making today use WSU sausage. It gives it a little more smoky flavor, but you can use any sausage you want. We have a cornmeal batter here. All it has in it is flour, cornmeal, egg, buttermilk, seasonal salt, and a little bit of cayenne. So it's super easy, very simple. For making your corn dog, a lot of times you dredge them in flour and then egg, but for these, all you have to do is dredge it in a little bit of cornstarch. And because cornstarch soaks up way more moisture than flour, always make sure to get as much off of it as you can. Use a little sifter if you need to. And then dip it in your flour, or in your batter. In my little sauce pot here, I have just regular cooking oil, and it's heated to about 360 degrees. It's a lot safer to use a deep fryer than doing this at home. It's very dangerous to have open oil boiling on the stove. You can cause a grease fire, you can burn yourself, it pops. It's not exactly the safest, so if you have a little deep fryer, try that instead. If you're gonna use tongs, make sure that you don't pick them up and hold them, because the oil will drip down and burn you. So once your corn dogs are completely coated, go ahead and hold it at the top for just a second before dropping it in. This will prevent it from sticking to the bottom and burning. And once you get it going, you can do quite a few at a time. Just again, be careful of the popping.
We clean up after each other here, don't we?
All the time.
Actually, pastry is usually known for not actually always cleaning up after themselves, but Megan's actually always cleaning up after us, so which is really nice. So it's a nice breath of fresh air. Chelsea does a pretty good job too, right? I just caused a little scene here. I'm gonna be in a little bit of trouble, but that's all right.
So what you're looking for with your corn dogs is just a nice golden brown color. It doesn't take that long. The trick for corn dogs is usually to get it to the color you want, pull them out, and then finish them in the oven so that they're nice and warm. And then that prevents burning. The nice thing about the WSU sausages is that they're already fully cooked. You don't have to worry about the inside being raw. Did you have any other comments about the sausage?
Well, for the corn dogs, what we like to do too is you can cook these up early in the morning too. Mm-hmm. And actually, see how we have them lined up? So as soon as those are done, which I think they're about done, Megan's going to actually put them on a towel, and that's going to absorb a lot of the oil. Then what we do is we put them on parchment paper, and then we're just going to flash them in the oven. And when we flash them in the oven, they will taste and they will feel just, this recipe is formulated to be actually cooked. When we do these corn dogs, sometimes we have to cook them pretty early because we're doing it for a party of 300 people. So there's no way we could be at the fryer cooking corn dogs like you see at the fair, one by one, getting ready for people. So the beauty is these can be in your refrigerator, ready to go, and you just pull them out, fire them in your oven. Again, a lot of the things that we're showing you today, we're showing you ideas that you actually will not be rushed. And again, cooking a little bit when people are showing up is fun. Being stressed and spending too much time cooking isn't any fun. So all these ideas are made where you can have that little bit of interaction, that little finishing cooking, and people will be hopefully wowed without having the stress and the hassle. So we're gonna put these in the oven real quick, and they will only take about 4 or 5 minutes at about 375 degrees. You want to cook them kind of hot, 375 to 400 degrees, because you don't want the dough on this to get soggy. So high temperature, it'll get really crispy again on the outside. Perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and plate those up. We have our platter for that. We have our honey Dijon sauce. here. Megan, do you want to do the honors of?
Yes, chef.
She's pastry, so she's a lot better at piping things. So.
With plating, it's really simple. You can do any design you want. With these, they're going to be sitting on top of the sauce. Usually, when you do a dish, you want the sauce to be off to the side so that people can pick and choose. But because this is a simple appetizer, you're allowed to put stuff underneath and kind of encourage people to try the sauces with it. So for this, because I'm going to put them in a line, I'll probably just do a nice little, kind of like what you see on a classic hot dog. And then as soon as they're done with the oven, or done in the oven, I'll just lay them right on top.
You want to go ahead and pull those out of the oven? It's gonna be magic. They actually usually take about 5 minutes, but our ovens are amazing, so they only take about 30 seconds. So we're gonna go ahead and pull those out. That's my dry sense of humor. So now we're gonna, as soon as she gets those done, we're actually gonna go into producing jalapeno poppers. Do we have any, anybody out there have any questions, or we're doing too good of a job explaining things? Yeah, bring that over. So, we have our jalapenos. Very important when you're choosing jalapenos, you need to definitely try them before you make a lot of the product. Jalapenos, every once in a while, the green part usually is not hot at all. The inside, the seeds, and the white membrane inside is where the heat comes from. There's times where the skin, the flesh of the jalapeno is extremely hot, so you have to be very, very careful. Also, I definitely suggest always wearing gloves. You can definitely have a pretty severe reaction, rubbing your eyes or something afterwards, so wearing gloves. Wash your jalapenos. These have all been washed. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut the stem just barely off. We want something to kind of hold on to it and give it some shape. And then we're going to cut it in half. And I'm cutting it in half lengthways like this. And you can see the seeds and everything in here. All the heat usually is right in here. Again, if you're making these, you can always buy the red Fresno peppers. Sometimes those are a lot more mild too, and do a combination, so you do some that are less hot. But usually, if you remove all the seeds, I like taking a peeler like this and actually going in, and you can cut into it, and then you can pull the seeds right out. Again, being a little careful, then you can take it and see how I'm kind of scraping. Make sure you're always scraping this away from your eyes. You don't want any of that juice from the jalapeno to get into your eyes. So, really important to get out all the seeds. Now, of course, if you have guests that like it really spicy, you can leave some of that in there. But please, maybe set some aside and mark them that people know which ones are the spicy ones. But you can see we have a little pocket right there. Yes?
So we do have a question that asks, how do you pick your jalapenos at the grocery store?
Well, unfortunately, if you bit into a jalapeno at the grocery store, we're talking about how to choose the jalapeno, you'd probably get arrested. So I just buy them, take them home, and before I start cooking, I actually taste it. But I always look for, and these actually, it's been hard to get really good product lately. These actually have a little bumps, but I look for smooth outside. And then I look for the size that I want too. So for our jalapeno poppers, sometimes the jalapenos will come in about this big. So I want a little bit smaller jalapenos, if possible. So just looking for ones that have a firm flesh. As they start to get a little deteriorated here, you'll actually get more of the oils from inside. Sometimes they'll go into the flesh. So if they're kind of beat up, that's when you can end up with really spicy. So I usually will actually taste. I'm not going to do that on live video feed today because if I have a reaction and it's too hot. And I like things spicy, but again, I don't like things so spicy that I can't taste and enjoy the flavors. So again, we're just going to kind of shake it down like that. You'll get most of the seeds out. So what we're going to do now is we have a mixture of Cougar Gold Crimson Fire cheese. We mix it with just a little bit of cream cheese to make it a little bit mild. We're going to take our jalapenos and we're going to stuff them. Really important, there's no reason to, you want to make sure you don't trim off the ends, but there's no reason to overstuff these because the cheese is just going to come right out. So you want to stuff them just so that they're even. And see how, and again, you don't have to worry about, some people say, you're going to wrap these in bacon. And you don't have to wrap these in bacon. You can actually cook them without the bacon. I prefer the bacon, but so just kind of stuffing them like that. And then when you're buying bacon, I know a lot of people like extra thick bacon. I usually look for a good quality thinner bacon for this, just because you can wrap it a little tighter. So we have our bacon here. We're going to take that bacon now. Usually if I'm making a lot of these, and I know you're not going to be making 500 of these, but even if you're making 25, just line them up. Line up the bacon. Kind of create a little assembly line. Like this. Then you're going to take the bacon like this, and then you're going to wrap it. And just wrap it kind of tight. If it's thicker bacon, you can actually stretch it out. Just take the bacon and kind of stretch it a little bit before you start wrapping them. So basically what you could do is you could just set these down like this, get an assembly line going, pick up the bacon, and then wrap. These can be done actually the night before. And we have some little skewers here that what I'd like to do is just take the very end, and actually the very end where I put the wrap when I bake them, so when the bacon cooks, it doesn't unwrap on you. Yes, question?
Yes, we have a question from Nicole, and she asks, anytime she wraps anything in bacon, it never crisps up. Do you have any tips to help with that, or is she buying the wrong kind?
Yes, I do. So what I suggest is before you bake these off, is to refrigerate them. So if you made a bunch of these, get them refrigerated so that the cheese and everything inside of here is actually really is firm. Then put them in a really hot oven, like almost 400 degrees, and that's going to allow the bacon to crisp up without overcooking the jalapeno. Very important. And actually, if I wrap something like scallops, which I love bacon wrapped scallops, if I wrap scallops, I'll actually freeze the bacon wrapped scallops and I'll cook them frozen. The bacon gets crispy and the scallops don't get overcooked, and it works extremely well. So we're going to line these up on a rack so the grease can drip down, and that's very important. And then we're going to cook them in the oven until the bacon gets crisp. And again, you really need to turn the oven on pretty high for that and really get this bacon crisp. And then you can actually finish cooking them in a different way, and I'm going to show that here in a second. You can put that in the oven. You can probably pull out the chicken too. You can remove this. Now we're going to get into something really fun. So what I like to do, normally what we do here is we actually have a big smoker. So we'll take them and we'll actually crisp the bacon. If you can see on these, the bacon's really crisp on these. So we get the bacon really crisp, and then we'll smoke them. So we cook them a little bit less than what these are, but I'm actually going to cold smoke these now. These just came out of the oven, so they're still nice and hot. So I know this could get some interesting comments. So this is a smoking gun. So I always get a lot of kicks out of this, a lot of jokes about this, because not that I would know, but it resembles other things. So, so this basically, it has a little chamber here, and it holds the wood chips. Put that in there. It's battery operated. So I turn this, and I put the hose right in there. And I just keep it going until it starts to smoke. So I can cold smoke tomatoes, I can cold smoke lettuce. It's absolutely amazing. And these things are definitely available through food purveyors. And then also you can get them in a lot of different stores. So I cover the holes, you saw that? So that's trapped the smoke in there. So I can let this smoke, sometimes I'll smoke tomatoes up to 3 times and add some amazing flavor. I'm gonna bring the other smoker over. So I have, of course, a couple smokers at home. I have a green egg and a Traeger, and that's what I use to finish them off. You wanna get that bacon a little crisp before you do that. This little smoker was one of my first home smokers. It's absolutely amazing. It's just a little camp smoker. Works on your stovetop. Just make sure you don't get too much smoke going in it, because it'll actually may set off a fire alarm. So I soak the wood chips, and I just set this down, and I actually put it right over the stove on kind of medium heat, just until the wood chips start to smoke. And then I set this back over the top, put my little tray in there, and then separate out the wood chips a little bit, and then this slides right over the top. And it actually works absolutely amazing. I've smoked salmon in that. Now I'm a little spoiled. I have a Traeger and a green egg, and I'm a chef, so I have my toys. But I still have that at home because that was the first thing that actually I started using when I was cooking. So now, if you can see, this still has quite a bit of smoke. I don't know if you can see that coming out. So a lot of flavor from this gun. And I used cherry for this, but you can use cherry, mesquite, apple. Works absolutely amazing. So now we're going to actually tray these up. You can see all that. I don't know if you can see the smoke coming off of that. And you can use. They use these for craft cocktails. They use these in a lot of restaurants and stuff for like a little campfire dish that comes out at the end, and somebody lifts up the top and they trap the smoke in it. So these little smoking guns are a lot of fun. We use it here actually a lot. We've smoked WSU lettuce, like I said, tomatoes, different things, and it doesn't cook it at all. So you get that nice cold smoke flavor on there. So we're going to go ahead and tray these up here. And we made a little crema. You can hand me that. The crema, we basically just put, and I believe this was in the recipes that we sent you, that we sent out. Basically, you can even just you can use the Mexican sour cream that you buy at the grocery store, or if you just have sour cream, you can add maybe a little lime, a little salt to it, and just give it a little bit of flavor. But it really adds a nice touch to it. And when we're doing it with the toothpicks too, I usually like taking this toothpick out because there's no real reason for it anymore because you can really hold on to the product. And also people start partying, they may forget that it's there, and that could be a problem. So, all right. So are we ready to talk about Cougar Gold stuffed potatoes? Chelsea?
Absolutely. So today I will be starting us off with our base for our potatoes. So we're going to start off with our little potatoes. This is going to be our little bowl for our Cougar Gold mixture. So in order to sit it flat, we're going to cut off the ends of each potato. Each potato should yield about two little cups for your filling. And it's going to sit just like this. And then, so after you do this, we're going to take a melon baller and scoop out the center of it so we can fill it with our filling. And we'll cook our potatoes in salted cold water to keep a consistent cook. Chef, do you want to talk about our filling?
Sure. Isaac, do you want to pull the pork out and set it right here? So for the filling, what we've done here is we have Cougar Gold cheese. My favorite Cougar Gold cheese is the cracked pepper and chive for this. Sometimes it's hard to get, so you can actually add your own pepper and chives, but you can put whatever flavor you want into your potato, and it's absolutely amazing. We do all different types of flavors. You can do the spicy potatoes. We definitely use regular Cougar Gold cheese a lot, so we've done some unique flavors. So what we're going to start doing is we have shallots and garlic here, and we're going to sweat this out. So what that means is we're going to cook it with very low heat. So we're going to put our shallots in there and our garlic. We're just going to slowly cook that. The burner wasn't working for a second. We're back on track. So that's going to take a long time, probably about 3 years to cook. So I have chopped thyme here, and then a little bit of mayonnaise. And if you can look at the amount of cheese, I know you say, why would you ever need mayonnaise? It needs just a tiny bit to kind of get a creaminess to the potato. So we're going to add that towards the end. I'm not going to mix this. Usually we do this with a paddle, with a KitchenAid mixer. And just, you don't want to over mix it because you still want, if you look at this, you still want pieces of cheese in there, and you want that texture. But we're going to sweat out the garlic and shallots, and we do that because, again, we don't want that raw shallot our garlic flavor. We want it to be nice and subtle. We talk a lot about background flavors. So when you eat these potatoes, unless of course you love garlic, I don't want the first thing to think garlic. First thing I want to think is Cougar Gold cheese. It's an amazing cheese. I don't want to hide that flavor. So we do a lot of things in this kitchen. People taste it, it's like, oh, what's that other flavor in there? And that's what we call background flavors. And we really pride ourselves in kind of hiding those things, but it does change the flavor of the overall dish. So we have a little bit of thyme in here too. We're gonna set that in there and just slowly cook this. And then when this is sweated out, so sweated out again means sauteing without browning. So very little heat, low heat. I always start in a cold pan and then slowly heat it up and don't brown it at all and just kind of open up the flavors and get rid of that raw flavor. You talked about the cooking of the potatoes?
Yes, you always cook your potatoes in cold salted water for flavor and for even cooking temperature.
And with the purple potatoes, because I wasn't.
That asks if there's anything you can use instead of mayonnaise.
Well, you could get away with not putting any. I mean, if you look at how much mayonnaise is in there, it's very little mayonnaise. So you could get away without adding any mayonnaise at all. So, and that would work. The other thing you could do is reduce down cream, and that would work really good. So but the mayonnaise, especially if you're going to use a mayonnaise, again, I'm not saying I don't get paid by Best Foods or anything, but a Hellmann's or Best Food, our high quality mayonnaise, breaks down a lot less in the cooking process. So I would definitely suggest that. So, and the nice thing is these potatoes, when they're done, they're fork tender. So you want to cook them to where you can put a fork through very easily. And I don't know if I was paying attention to the pork over there. So you have a fork. So you want to use a fork when you're cooking them, and the fork needs to go through with very little resistance. But you definitely want the potatoes cooked a little bit. Then you cool them down, refrigerate them, and then you stuff them. And it's important when you stuff them that we actually stuff them, and we definitely overstuff them just a tiny bit, because then the cheese melts and it kind of goes around the edges and it makes an amazing dish. So fork tender, so you're just sticking your fork in there and it goes through very, very easy. But they have to hold their shape. If you cook them too long, they'll be mashed potatoes. So we have our finished potatoes here, and we have some, and you can see how nice and brown we got them. And the beautiful thing about these is we have the purple potatoes, the yellow potatoes, and kind of the red potatoes. So they're different colors. The purple potatoes never turn out as good, but I'm just kidding. Purple, you know, the color that all of us kind of hate. But but they don't. You don't want to cook the purple potatoes in the same water, because they'll turn the water purple and your other potatoes will turn gray. So you can see how the product's sweating out now. You can see that really nice, slow cooking, just kind of releasing the oils from the garlic and just kind of getting rid of that raw flavor from the shallots. All right, so you can go ahead and dish those up.
Awesome.
So we're gonna, there should be more, can you pull up, yeah, the other. So I wanna show you something I've done here. These wings here, I actually, if you notice that none of our wings, not that we're anti-frying, we made corn dogs and did those. These wings were actually tossed in the barbecue rub that we're getting ready to make. And then at the very end, we smoked them for about 3 hours in the smoker at about 200 degrees. And so they're not fried at all, and they have an amazing flavor, and they're really tender. We tossed them with just a little bit of barbecue sauce, which you don't have to do. They actually eat very well with just the dry rub on there. A little bit of the barbecue sauce, and then and serve. So you can make, actually, if you're already making the rub that we're about to do, and you're doing the barbecue pork, you can actually save some of the wings, have 2 different kinds of wings with very little extra effort. So the barbecue rub, I don't want to say I'm overly picky, but I'm definitely picky about the rubs and different things that we do here. I definitely pride ourselves in using really good ingredients in our barbecue sauce. It has honey, molasses for the flavoring, no corn syrup, there's no ketchup. Really using real food to start with. So what I'm going to do here, this is quite a selection of ingredients here. Again, I'm going to use a Ziploc bag, and you'd think, oh, the Ziploc bags, you can, especially for the spices, you can reuse these, right? And continue to reuse these. And then once you mix like for the barbecue rubs and the seasonings that I make, I'll make a whole bag of it. and then just keep on using it. And as long as you're cooking a lot, you'll actually get through it. So we're going to start with a little bit of sugar, just regular granulated sugar. A little bit of kosher salt. A little bit of brown sugar. A little bit of paprika. Now, if you don't have a smoker and you're using paprika and you're like, I want that smoked flavor, use smoked paprika. Will help. I mean, that'll definitely give you some of that smoked flavor. So, but I'm using, because we have a smoker, I'm using regular paprika so I can control the smoke flavoring. Chili powder. Ground cumin. And it's amazing. Some of these are really slight background flavors. And this week we were actually experimenting around because I was thinking, I really want to make sure this is right. So we have granulated garlic. And so we'd remove one of the flavors and it would not be the same. And it would just be missing something, even though you couldn't taste that item in there. We have black pepper. Granulated onion, not onion powder and not garlic powder. Granulated, very important. A little bit of cayenne pepper. And again, if you like spicier things, you can add a lot more cayenne pepper. A little bit of sage. I know this looks crazy. And a little bit of ground oregano. So we're going to take all that. And we're just going to really mix that up. And shake that around. Make sure all the spices. Ziploc bag works amazing for that. And you can kind of, the brown sugar, you can kind of break apart. This is one of the mixes that you don't want to, you see how I can kind of set it down and kind of even push the brown sugar pieces down, right? And break them apart a little bit more. You can definitely keep this for a while. This rub, you have to be a little careful because if you're in an area that has a lot of humidity, the brown sugar will start to clump up and it'll be hard to use. So, but you can see it's already pretty well mixed up. And we have our barbecue rub. I just want to unwrap all these. So now we have our pork shoulder. So a lot of people wonder what the difference between a pork shoulder and a pork butt is. It's marketing. They're the exact same cut. Sometimes especially in the South, the pork butt will have a tendency to have a lot more fat cap on it. So when you cook it, it gets a lot crisper. There's a lot more of that kind of crackling kind of flavor, but they are the exact same thing. So we're going to take our, so this was actually, I just picked this up from the local grocery store, and I'm going to go ahead and set those all right in here. So I just picked these up from the local grocery store. I trimmed the fat off of it just a tiny bit. Now I'm going to take, and actually if you want to sprinkle some rub on this, just so I'm not contaminating it. So we want to put a generous amount. When I put a dry rub on something like this, there's not a ton of salt in there, but there's a lot of flavor. I want to barely be able to see the pork through the rub, okay? I'm not just seasoning it like it's salt and pepper. You want to, come on, put some on there.
Yes, chef.
That's what I was looking for. Even a lot more. Let's go for it. All right. So this is kind of a small pan, but our small bowl. Go ahead and put some, just keep on. So you really want to rub that in there. If you can see, some of it's coming off, but then before I grab more, I'm definitely going to use that. Be really careful though. Usually if I'm doing this all by myself, I'll actually put a little bit of the rub in a small container, so I'm not contaminating all that rub. So put it in a small container, but you want a good amount of rub on there, because my favorite part of pulled pork is the bark, okay? There's not a lot of this flavor that's going to go in there. So when you pull your pork, if this isn't seasoned really well, the pulled pork isn't going to taste that great. You need the bark to be absolutely amazing. And that's why I actually trim off a little bit more fat off my pork, because that way I don't have to get rid of that fat cap on there. I can actually put all that right in there. You're doing a great job, Megan.
Thank you, chef.
So I'm going to put a little bit more on there. Okay. if you can see this, I mean, it's a pretty generous amount, right? But again, the pork rub that we make, the barbecue rub, is not, the first ingredient in terms of weight is not salt, right? So it has a lot of different flavors in here. This is gonna be perfect. This is gonna be absolutely amazing flavor. And again, that's probably too much, that's way too much seasoning for the very top. If I just tuck that skin, and actually I would like it because I think this is really good. But if you just tuck that skin and you just cut that off, yeah, it might be a little salty or it might be a little bit too much flavor. But once you put it into the rest of the product, when you're pulling it, it really comes around. You guys want to sanitize this real quick? Okay, now I have kind of a, you're going to get some benefits from just listening right now because I didn't put all these secrets into, I believe in job security. So if I put everything on paper, I might not have a job, right? So I want to tell you guys things when I actually teach. So I'm going to give you a lot of different options, and I will send in these recipes for cooking it in the oven. Not everybody has a smoker at home, and I totally get it. I have not always had a smoker, and there's times where I had to make barbecue pork in the oven, which is, and if you do it right, it comes out absolutely amazing. So, and that's where, again, when you're making your own rub, using some of the smoked paprika instead of regular paprika will really help. So, all these porks were cooked a little differently. If you look at the bark, they all look very, very similar, right? So what I did with this one right here, this one's 100% in the oven. So we actually dry rubbed it, put it in the oven for about 4 hours at about 275 degrees. Got it to where it's nice and caramelized. And then the same recipe we sent you, we actually put it in a pan, little barbecue sauce over it, cooked it till it got really fork tender, and then we put it back in the oven and kind of caramelized the outside. And this is absolutely amazing. This one right here, 8 hours in the smoker, no oven. Absolutely amazing. This one right here is 4 hours in the smoker, 4 hours in the oven, and then back in the smoker. We just wanted to finish off in the smoker a little bit. So this one actually has less smoke flavor, and some people actually prefer that. So, but if you look at this pork, you have a nice smoke ring still here. This right here is just ready to be pulled too. Same with this one, absolutely amazing flavor. But this just pulls right apart. And actually, I'm not always a big fan of taking a fork and just pulling the pork and you get shredded pork. I like this. I like pieces of pork, and then you can get that piece of bark in your sandwich. I don't know if it gets any better than that. So again, just pulling it, and see how this is extremely hot, but see how it just kind of pulls apart? And then if you want to, if sometimes you get to a bigger piece, you can actually even take it. If you want more of that kind of look, instead you can actually kind of more shave it like that, so you're not pulling it apart, and you end up with this amazing pulled pork. And there's different muscles running through the pork, so some of it will pull into bigger pieces, some of it will shred. The traditional way, of course, is to take your pork. You can take a meat fork, and you can even go like this, just kind of push down the side like this and pull it apart, or take it like this. But again, this smells, I wish that we actually, at some point, we're gonna have the technology that you could just smell this right here. I do go through this at this time though, and I look for any of that internal fat that was there and set that aside. That's the only reason our dogs like us right there, so. But see, that having this in there is what really makes an amazing sandwich. You want to go ahead and pull all that right here. So right now we're making some sliders. Very important. The buns have all been toasted. Don't ever, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but personally, you need it toasted. So we actually buttered these and just put them in in our broiler. You could definitely take them and just put them in like I like at home, I'll usually just do them in a pan. So you get that nice caramelization. So we're gonna put a little barbecue sauce on the bottom. And then I'm gonna pull some of this pork, and we're gonna build these sandwiches. And what I do a lot of times is at home, if I have people coming over, I won't build the sandwiches for them. Not that I'm lazy, but what I'll do is I'll have the coleslaw on the side, I'll have grilled onions on the side, I'll have the pulled pork on the side, some with barbecue sauce and some without. Some people don't like it. I'll have all those things done. I'll have the rolls toasted like this in a basket, and then people can just kind of make their own. That's kind of what I would prefer, but I have to feed the film crew here today or they won't come again, so I'm gonna go ahead and make them sandwiches. You gotta take care of the people. So we're gonna go ahead and put just a little bit of the pork on there. Again, you can put the barbecue sauces on it, but if you can see this pork, I mean, you can kind of see it. It's very, very tender. I really don't need to put any barbecue sauce on this for making it moist. It's absolutely amazing. And look at that bark in there. And because I trimmed off the majority of the fat, if you just leave a lot of fat on this, a lot of that bark you have to actually get rid of because it's kind of chewy. But this is actually all meat with the bark. I'm actually getting hungry.
Me too.
So we're gonna put a generous amount on there. And then we're gonna squirt just a tiny bit of barbecue sauce on there, on top of the pork. And it kind of helps as a glue for the sandwich too. If anybody's really hungry, we're gonna be selling these for about $20 just out back here. So you can stop by, just drive up. We'll do a quick little drive-through for your college fund, right?
I think so.
All right. So let's go ahead and just take it now. I mean, if you have gloves on, just use your hands, right? A little bit of slaw on top.
Oh, chef, you're making a mess.
If you don't make a mess when you're doing barbecue, you're not doing it right, right?
Agreed.
And there are some decent slider buns. I just actually bought miniature hamburger buns because I think they're a little bit better size, and I kind of like the quality a little bit better. So the other thing you could do too is if you want to make these up ahead of time, don't put the slaw on there, and you can actually wrap these up and throw them in the oven real quick. As long as the slaw's not on there, and it's absolutely amazing. So again, this pulled pork too. You can just leave that there for now. This pulled pork could actually be done the day ahead, right? And you can have this all ready to go and just re-warm it back up. Your wings can be ready to go, and you're just putting those in the oven and finishing them off. Your sauce can be done a week, 2 weeks ahead, no problem. Potatoes can be stuffed the day before. The corn dog pops definitely need to be cooked off that day, but they can be cooked off a couple hours before. Any of the chicken wings and stuff, you're finishing them off, but the sauce can be done. So all of this, even though this looked like a lot of work tonight, all of this can be done in advance, and just that little bit of cooking to make you look important and valued when guests are showing up. But you're not running around the kitchen. You can sit down, have a beverage. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm gonna go into beer a little bit. We have some great local breweries here. Paradise Creek makes some amazing beers, and they're just amazing people. So, of course, everybody has a different preference in beer. I don't like a real hoppy, real strong beer, so I suggest definitely having a nice selection. And these growlers are a great way to go. So when people are coming over, it's kind of, you can actually set these in ice. It's kind of a celebration of the Palouse. So what we like to do is kind of think about, if I was actually serving this with this food, I would have to be a little careful with some of the things, like these wings here. They have a little bit of a spice to them. Too hoppy of a beer can actually bring out that spice and kind of bring a bitterness to the beer, and so they wouldn't do each other justice. However, if you like a really hoppy beer or something that's kind of leaving a little bitter, and that's what you like, and you like these wings, then of course drink and eat that together, and hopefully nobody's going to judge you. But for something, if you get in, so the Kolsch would definitely go really well. It's a lighter beer. The Poker Face Blonde is a lot lighter and kind of floral. Would go extremely well with these wings. When you get into the IPA, you definitely want to be, I don't want to say concerned, but this IPA with those sliders would be absolutely amazing. That barbecue sauce would kind of bring out the deep flavors in this, and they would work together. I do a lot more wine pairing things than I do beer pairing, but one of the things I always look for is something, you have great food and you have great beer, winning start, but you just want to avoid the train wrecks. This beer is a little hoppy, but it's not overly hoppy. I think if you got something that was extremely bitter, a beer that was extremely bitter, and you served it with something that was extremely spicy, like these Asian wings, I think it could actually be the ginger and the spice in here and the sriracha could be a little of a battle. Not saying it would be what we call a train wreck, but so with that, a lighter beer I think would definitely go a lot better. The corn dogs, especially those corn dogs, so instead of just the honey mustard, putting a little barbecue sauce underneath there would be amazing with this IPA. You got that fat and that texture, and the barbecue sauce would be really good. The potatoes, I think, would go good with anything. The barbecue wings and this should make most people really, really happy. So you have that nice smoke on them, you have the barbecue sauce, and I think that'd be a great combination. Of course, the lighter the beer you get, the more things it's going to pair with. Things might overrun this, and we talk about that with beverage pairing. So if you usually want to pair kind of the high-powered, high-flavorful things together. So if you have a light beer and you pair it with something that's really strong in flavor, and you're going to overpower the beer, and vice versa. So usually you want to kind of complement each other. But the nice thing about a lighter beer is a lighter beer will usually pair with everything. All right, do we have any questions out there from the audience and about Super Bowl predictions or anything? I think anybody in the Pacific Northwest is probably going to be rooting for a certain team. I won't need to go into that we really like Eagles and things like that, but you know, we definitely are more of a, we're going to try to stay a little even here, but I live on Eagle Lane, so I like the Eagle. I mean, you know what I mean. So we don't want to talk about our arch nemesis in football. So any questions, or we're good to go? So I want to thank all of you for coming, and I just hope that you have a great game day with friends and family, and that you can take some of these ideas. And again, all these ideas should be just inspirations. Like these wings were not, the barbecue wings were not even part of this. I just took some of the rub that we already made, rubbed and put on the wings, smoked them, and then put a little barbecue sauce on them and called it good. Potatoes, again, you can use any kind of cheese in there, and you can make this your own. The sausage, if you don't like pork, you can put, like I love some of our local, like Cernio sausages, and some of our chicken sausages you can use for that. So again, all this should be just an inspiration. It shouldn't be set in stone. So enjoy, and I'm just going to say go Cougs, because that's where I work and that's who I love. So have a great evening.